right, so I think I will call our second October meeting of the school board to order, and we'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary will please note the roll. And we have no executive session announcements to make for tonight, and we'll move right on to public comment. Do we have any requests for public comment this evening?
Yes, sir.
Are there any extemporaneous requests for public comment? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to the next thing.
Thank you, Mr. Lingman. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Dorenzo, our Director of Community Relations, to give an update to the board and the community.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few quick items to keep everybody up to date on what's going on. Last weekend, a few of our board members, Dr. Nippert and Mrs. Grimm, attended, along with Dr. Shirk and myself, attended our alumni honor roll. And I don't know if anybody got to see the program, but it was an outstanding event, and for super inductees, and they spoke very highly of not only their experience at Pottsgrove, but also their preparation for their chosen field, and that being lawyers, doctors, and engineers. So it started a long time ago, and it's continuing, so it was a very nice event. So if you do get a chance, it's on PCTV Network. I'd encourage you to watch it. I also have a link from YouTube that I can send out as well. I talked about the Paint the Plow program. That is coming to an end. That's our partnership with PennDOT. They're going to pick up the plows. They're done both at the middle school and the high school, and again, they've exceeded our expectations. So the high school plow will be entered into a contest with other schools in Montgomery County and Chester County, and the middle school plow was just an extension of last year's project that they enjoyed doing. So both of the art teachers and the groups did a fantastic job. This Thursday night is we are hosting the College and Business Expo here, along with the Tri-County Chamber of Commerce. It's a 4 to 8 event, and there's approximately 60 vendors, colleges, trade schools, businesses that will be in the main gym, and they will offer our students and families an opportunity to get a good look at options for them post Pottsgrove. So I encourage you to come out. It'll be 4 to 8. I'll make a plug for our food trucks because they've been good partners too. They'll be set up out front, in front of the gym area as well, so they'll be here as well. So if you're looking for a brisket sandwich, I would recommend Hillbilly's Barbecue. This week has also started our Health and Wellness Week. As you know, we've coordinated this throughout the years, but I will tell you this has been Mrs. Mossman in the business office has done a tremendous job of really speaking and living wellness. She started with a wellness fair for our faculty on the first day of school, and she's also added across the district nutrition counseling, and they come out to each of the buildings and offer nutritional counseling to our staff. And we've begun partnering with other agencies to do discounted fitness classes, et cetera, to keep our staff health and well. And also for our students, this week they're doing a variety of different activities, including nutrition, mindfulness, exercise, the importance of hydrating and healthy snacks. And then coming in November, they're going to be coordinating a farmer's market at each of the elementary schools. So again, learning how to truly eat healthy with healthy snacks, et cetera. At West Pottsgrove, through a Game On grant, we began revitalizing the outdoor classroom. It's since been overgrown, and I know the facilities department has cleared a path, and they're on their way to providing a new outdoor classroom area out there, hopefully this spring. Also happy to report the Pottsgrove Education Foundation this month alone has received $11,700 in new monies, and that's quite a big chunk of money. Most of that came from one of our partners, but again, that's the word is out that the mini grants that help our students and the Education Foundation supports Pottsgrove in total. So that's very healthy, and it's very much appreciated. The next board meeting is November 11th, at which time we will then award those teacher mini grants and student mini grants out through the district. And finally, the co-curricular initiative that was started last year that saw 531 students participate in a variety of different programs, many enrichment programs, robotics, etc. This year, we are now close to 200 students in grades 3 to 8. So again, just another example that our students are connecting with our faculty. They want to be a part of the school, and they want to be here for programming, and I think it's very healthy for us all the way around. So, anybody have any questions?
Just a comment, the way that some of the PTAs feed us, we might need to be part of this fitness membership.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorenzo. Moving on to action items for personnel.
I make a motion that we combine 5.1 to 5.5.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Second's over here. Val. We have a motion and a second for 5.1 through 5.5. Are there any questions on 5.1 through 5.5? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to 5.6, special payment appointment. We're asking the board to approve the special payment appointment as submitted.
We have a motion and a second for 5.6 special payment. Are there any questions on 5.6? No questions, no comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. And one abstention. 7-0 and one abstention. All right, all those signify, moving on to the next thing, 6.
Thank you. Action items for business. This is capital projects. We're asking the board to approve additional capital projects as presented.
We have a motion and a second on item, this is 6.1 only. Are there any questions or comments on 6.1?
Question.
Yes.
On the subject of the dugouts, I'm not an expert in this. I apologize for bringing this up at this point, but it occurred to me as we drove over here. What's the difference between a boys' dugout and a girls' dugout?
There is no difference. We're making them the same size. Everything is exactly the same. It's just the location. Varsity field is up above, the girls' field is down in the lower end.
Okay, so there are two separate fields.
Two separate fields.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Question on the $350,000 for infrastructure upgrade. Are we maxed out at this time? Again, we're seeing something in the age of the existing equipment and anticipated need for additional capacity. Can we get a little more information on that?
Sure. We're not currently maxed out, but we're getting close in some closets due to the addition of some phones in some areas where there weren't phones, access points in areas where we didn't have access points. All those lines run back to our closets. We've had a couple areas that became educational spaces that weren't previously, where we've had to add some phones, some access points, things like that. So our port count is getting considerably low in some areas.
Do you anticipate, as far as time, what kind of time frame are you looking at to be maxed out, where we'd be stuck?
I would say probably within the next year or so. And in some cases, specifically Lower Pottsgrove, the MDF over there currently is maxed out.
If you have anything else, I mean, I did specifically ask that he be ready for any questions that could come up, however
And I
many.
am.
Yeah. So, how many edge switches, how many core switches, where they are, what buildings, the number of upgrades. No, I just,
Yeah.
ready
Well,
for a
if you
quiz.
really want somebody to ask, I was not going to, because I thought maybe I was the only one, but what is a core and edge switch?
It's a great question. A switch is basically one of your core pieces of your network. It's where you would walk into the closet and you see all the cables coming out of this switch. So an access point has a line that runs back to a closet somewhere. That cable plugs into a switch. The switch allows all the devices on the network to talk to each other. So that's basically what a switch is. So each building has a closet where all the other closets come into. That's called an MDF, a main distribution frame. Your edge switches are in your outer closets. Your core switch is in that closet. So your core switch needs to be a little bit higher capacity to bring all those switches from the closets into. So that's the difference between a core switch and an edge switch. Your edge switch is out in the closet somewhere. Your core switch is in an MDF. Each building has one. We have one at the district office as well in our archives. So all total, it's 68 switches. That's how many switches across the board. There's 9 closets in the high school, each having various amounts of switches depending on how many cables run to those closets. Each switch is 48 ports, so that's 48 lines. So you can imagine with 68 switches needed, that's a lot of lines that run back there. So every phone, every access point, every camera, every hardwired connection in the room all have lines that run to them that go back to switches in a closet. I hope that helps a little bit.
Are you talking about actual closets, or is that another technology term?
It's actually a network closet,
Okay,
yes.
just
There are
checking.
nine network closets.
I don't keep that
in
kind
the
of
high
stuff in my
school alone,
closet,
yes.
so.
The switches are basically, it's the backbone of the dial program. It's the backbone of the network. It's the things that no one sees, but we need in order to have communications.
Well, you said lower is maxed out right now. How long before they're no longer in that situation if this is approved?
If this is approved, it will be a summer of 2020 project. So we'll swap out all the switches there. The proposal does include some increased capacity to allow for future growth.
That was my next question. How long before we would be in this situation again?
The life cycle of the switches is intended to be between 8 and 10 years, and by the time these are replaced, we're going to fall right in that time frame. So,
I'm not going to vote yes or no based on the answer to this, but out of curiosity, back to school night at the high school, the teachers were showing a video, and a lot of teachers were unable, it didn't go through. I presumed it was, not understanding this stuff at all, but I just kind of presumed there wasn't enough closets, bandwidth, whatever. Will this fix that issue?
it's tough to say without having the opportunity to troubleshoot the issue that evening. It could have been an issue with the computers. It could have been an issue with the access points. Could have been an issue with the filter. All those things come into play when a video is playing. So without the opportunity to spend some time troubleshooting, I can't say that the switches will have fixed that, but it certainly is going to help increase capacity, bandwidth, security, reliability, all the things that go into a network.
One of the reasons I asked that he be ready with all these answers is that on the facilities committee, we know that we're often coming to you with these multiple $100,000 requests, and sometimes it's just, in this case, 4 lines. And what are you getting for your 4 lines? $350,000, what is it? And, sometimes it's a term of art. In this case, a closet is not a term of art. It means a closet. But, what are you getting? What are the taxpayers getting for this? And when we talk about all of these switches, and you see how things quickly add up, all of the different things, the cameras and the cables and all of the different things, it's a lot of work to put all of those switches in and to get all of them hooked up and running all the cables back and tying them back in and putting all those connections back together. There's a whole lot of work that goes into that. A lot of it, yes, the capital cost of the switches, both the switches and the core switches, the edge switches and core switches is a big capital cost, but a lot of the work is in the labor itself, running the cabling and everything back and forth in there as well. So that's why I asked that you be ready, so we could talk this through, so that if there were any questions, that we could kind of explain to everybody what you're getting for the money. So that's why we approved it, and that's why we asked you to come in tonight. So thank you very much for being ready. Are there any other questions?
One last question. You mentioned security. Are you talking about network security, or are you talking about the security system on the campus?
Well, both, actually. The switches do accommodate the security cameras. So from that respect, the security cameras will ride on these, but also security of network devices speaking with each other, access control lists, who's allowed to communicate with whom, that respect.
I had one other question. In regards to, and again, I'm not as specific on technology as you obviously are, switches versus doing a mesh network. Now, if I understand, switches, it just simply goes to where it's supposed to go, but mesh sort of like allows more options. Am I correct?
A mesh network is basically overlapping. We're set up more like a star network where everything comes back to the district office, and that's our kind of network operations center, the NOC. So our internet, all the bandwidth to all websites, hosted sites, goes through the district office. So the buildings come back to the district office and our archives and then go out from there. So it's more of a star network. The mesh network would be able to, from like Lower to Rocks. We don't have connectivity between Lower and Rocks. Everything comes back to the district office.
I'm guessing that's because of security and such like that?
Yeah, and the cost to run fiber between Lower and Rocks. And really, they just come to the district office. If Rocks wants to talk to West, they'll come to the district office, then go back to West.
If there are no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to 6.2, the Assessment Appeal Settlement Agreement. Our recommendation, authorized by Fox Rothschild LLP to enter an agreement for the property located at 100 Porter Road in Lower Pottsgrove Township and further identified as tax parcel 420003657009, setting the assessment of the property at $402,110 for the tax school year 1920, and for each of the subsequent tax years until a change in the property assessment pursuant to applicable law.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second on this item, on the tax assessment appeal. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm not IT, and I'm not an accountant, so I don't quite understand the numbers recommended, that we set the assessment at 402,000. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
It's different from that.
But the numbers below, I'll just say, are different.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can discuss this here or not.
We probably should do it in executive session. I think it'll only take a minute, maybe we can just do it in the hallway.
What, tax parcel numbers different?
No, the number below.
Well, let me say to you, what might cause confusion, because we haven't had a lot of these, fortunately, but there's some work coming up. I'll try to make this straightforward, it's a complex issue. When the county sets a base year, let's just say that the base year is 1996. Everybody gets reassessed. You may remember you got reassessed. And at that point, the assessment is set at 100% of fair market value. So the math is easy for me. Let's assume it's a $100,000 property. They set the assessment at $100,000. What happens is, generally, we have an inflating real estate market. And so when the property becomes worth $200,000 and the assessment stays at that original amount of 100, we have a common level ratio for the county of 50%. So our assessments are a percentage of the fair market value. So you see two numbers there. You see what we believe the fair market value is, and we see what the taxpayer believes the fair market value is, and you apply this ratio. And that's why you get the two separate numbers. One, the assessed value based on the market value. Did that make any sense? No.
So do the numbers that we're seeing in the admin content correlate to what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing and it's in the motion, you're seeing a market value, we're setting the market value at 790. The common level ratio for last year in Montgomery County was a little over 50%. So the assessment should be 50% of what parties believe the market value is.
Thank you.
He's going down to 235,000.
Right, because see, here it's, so setting the assessment at 402.
Yeah, and to get the fair market value, essentially double that.
Right.
But the reason why the math doesn't work exactly is because this common level ratio every year is inverse to the market value, and it slides a little bit.
It does.
So it's never a set target. The advantage you have, at least going forward, is we're going to base this on an assessment. So if values continue to go up, we will not get hurt till the taxpayer, if they choose, takes another appeal.
Thank you.
It's difficult, I apologize.
The only question I actually had was not particular to this particular property, but overall on assessments, on reassessments, how has that been affecting the district budget? Because I know a lot of my, again, much smaller than this, but a lot of my neighbors have all reassessed. And obviously, if they're all going down, 200 properties go down $50,000. It's the same as one property going down $200,000. How's that affected us?
We have the luxury of some new construction coming online now. So net overall, we're probably going to be positive, but we've been going down every year in assessment appeals since the crash in 2008. Some people just haven't take longer to get into the process. So, it's usually a couple $1 million of assessed value per year that we lose.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We had one question, we had two questions. And are there any others? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Very good. Moving on to education.
Action items for education.
Can I make a motion to combine 7.1 and 7.2?
Yes, you may.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 7.1 and 7.2. Does anybody have any questions on 7.1 and 7.2, which are on education? No questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to action items for policy. 8.1, approval of a policy. We're asking the board to approve 718.1, service animals, as submitted.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on policy 1718.1 on service animals. Does anybody have any questions on this? No questions, no comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection. Committee items.
Committee items. 9.1, policy committee meetings. We're asking the board to accept the minutes of the policy committee that was held on September 24th, 2019, as submitted.
So moved.
Okay, are there any questions on the minutes of the policy committee meeting? There being no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Okay, 9.2, the Operations and Facility Committee meeting met on the 10th of October, and we're going to take this opportunity to report out. Unless you feel we already...
I thought we already covered that. Talked about the last meeting, didn't we? What's that? No, I thought we did. Well, we did. We did talk about that. Tell you what, I guess we'll modify that and we'll say I'll take any questions anybody had if they looked at the minutes. Kind of turn that around on you there, Dr. Shirk. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, then.
I don't have any.
Teasing you. I'm teasing you. Yeah, we did. And we even voted on one.
You did the dugouts?
Yes, we did the dugouts, we did the fiber optics, which was the big question that we had last time. So, all right,
Okay.
moving on.
Moving on to 9.3, the Curriculum Integration Technology Committee, which met on the 15th. We're asking that committee to report out at this time.
All right, that would be me. All right, so we met last Tuesday night. It was short for a meeting, so that was sort of nice. We went over the data review checklist. It was all based on data, so it was PSSA scores, MAP scores, what else did we do? Keystone, SAT. We went over basically any scores, the state scores had come back, so we were able to look at our scores in comparison to theirs, which for the most part, we were above state average, not in every area, but most of them. We went over the assessment calendar and the testing schedule. With the PSSA results and the MAP comparison, the student proficiency percentages were met or exceeded in the state average in 13 out of 14 areas. In English language arts, grades 4, 6, 7, and 8, they all have the highest proficiency average. Let me start that over. The highest proficiency percentages since 2014-15. And that's when the PSSA changed and everybody's scores dropped drastically that year. In math, grades 3, 4, and 8 all had high proficiency percentages since 2014-15 also. And in science, grades 4 and 8 had the highest proficiency percentages. We looked over the performance of cohorts of students over time. The performance of historically underperforming students, as defined by Pennsylvania, as students who are economically disadvantaged, students with IEPs, students from various ethnicities. In all cases, the performance of these groups of students perform below the overall proficiency percentage of students in PGSD. And this is an achievement gap, and it's not unique to Pottsgrove. It is regionally and nationally seen across the board. The summary reports were provided by the PDE, and those were shared, and it compared our performance with the state averages for PSSA and Keystone, and it had 3 years of data, performance of the various subgroups, grade levels, specific performance related to the reporting categories. We went over the MAP projected proficiency. Students take the MAP testing 3 times throughout the year in grades 2 through 10. It shows what the students are ready to learn, and then it also projects proficiency to the SAT, ACT, and the PSSA. And historically, Pottsgrove does outperform these projections, but it's still a valuable tool. AP and SAT data, we did not have an overview document to compare, but Mr. Voorhees said he will provide us with that. And the SAT raw data has been received and reviewed, but the global and national averages aren't in yet. And then Act 158 statewide graduation requirements, we did go over those. We were given a, it's not a pie chart, what is that called? It's not a pie chart, but anyway, yeah. We were given that, and it shows the different paths that students can take to achieve graduation requirements. It's going to be a very large undertaking for our guidance department, for our teachers, parents, students, to make sure that these students stay on the right path, because they can at times take something from almost every area and use that as a requirement. So there's going to be quite a bit of monitoring needed to make sure that all students are keeping up with it and will be able to graduate on time. So that's going to be a challenge. And students and their parents are being notified of this and the requirements needed. So, I think that's about it. Okay, you got the letter? I don't get those anymore, so. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and those will be on the agenda next month for approval.
Yes.
Correct. New business, Mr.
Now we come to your favorite part.
It is, but
Another speaking part for you.
no. Actually, thank you for the opportunity tonight, Mr. Lindgren, but I will pass and defer to the board.
Outstanding. Well, Patty's not here, so. I'll have to have a
Oh,
guest
but I
speaker.
am.
Okay. Substitute Speaker, Mr. Parker.
There we go. All right. The Safe Schools Report that's submitted by July 31st. I don't believe we've been getting those reports, and just a request to receive last year's and the report annually moving forward. If it's, I don't know when you actually submit it, but if it's done by our last July meeting, would be beneficial. If not, I guess the September meeting. But if we can see last year's report to review.
I wanted to ask Brenna and Madison, today was the Hope for Tomorrow Assembly, and first of all, I'm really excited about the different trainings that we're offering to the students for mental health, because as you know, you're closest to all of it. And I just wanted to know what you thought of the assembly today.
I really enjoyed the assembly as much as you can enjoy an assembly like that. I thought that the speaker was really engaging. He had us doing polls and surveys on our phones and interacting with him, which was something that we've never done before. So that was interesting to see, and it was nice to see that these people understand how they're going to connect with the kids and get them to pay attention. So it was nice to see that we're incorporating that.
Yeah, I totally agree. We always usually have assemblies and walk out pretty sad, but I personally didn't. I thought it was super helpful. I know many people, we talked about it in the next class period. The guy was super sincere about it. It wasn't like something like, oh, I'm coming here talking to people again. He was like constantly running polls, like would start his story, did a couple polls to like almost back up what he said, and then would continue his story, do a couple more polls. So he kept us engaged, and that's why everybody was super focused. So I thought it was super helpful.
The only thing I wanted to give is like an FYI to the public that next Tuesday, the community, those in the PTA, board members, administrators are all going to begin our calendar program, as in for next year's school calendar. I know that's a big hoo-ha, I guess you would say, for a lot of the people in the public. They want to know as quickly as possible as into when the school calendar will be available. So we'll begin that process next Tuesday. So if anybody has any things they wanted to look at, please let the others know so we can actually talk about that next Tuesday. Thank you.
When and where?
Right here. Tuesday, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
Does anybody have anything else? All right. If not, that brings us back around to public comment. Another opportunity. Nothing. If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Okay.